So it's about 4:04 Pacific time. We'll give it another minute maybe here, and then there's a couple more people joining, and then we'll get rolling. All right, 4:05. Welcome everybody. This is our first for this off season, or for this summer season, virtual member session with the CASI National Technical Team, or members of the National Technical Team. My name is Jeff Chandler. I'm the Executive Director for CASI, and I'm going to kick things off with a couple introductions here, and then we're going to jump right into it. So for this member session today, we really wanted to give you a chance to get to know some of the members of the technical team, and talk a little bit about some kind of training tips or technical sort of ideas for some off-season kind of activities. So also, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Geneviève Piloteau, who is our new program director for CASI. So Geneviève will be kind of driving the presentation tonight. In addition to the tech team members that we have here, Adam Gardner from the Banff area, Dom O'Shannock from Whistler, Michelle Clifford, and James Highland, both from Ontario. And I think that's it for tech team members. So yeah, welcome. Well, this presentation is being recorded, and we would ask you to keep yourself on mute. We collected a few questions ahead of time, but as usual, feel free to drop some questions into the chat, and one of us will kind of monitor that stuff. And we do have some questions to go through and some kind of topics and themes to go through here this afternoon or this evening. So Jen, maybe I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, we received a few questions through the poll we sent last week, and I'm going to go through these questions quickly, and we've prepared a few questions to interview the tech team member after. So the first question we received was, when can we sign up for member session for 2022 and 23? Normally our preliminary calendar goes live on September 15 with a certain number of courses and session posted, but there's always other sessions and other courses added through the season. So you can start looking at our schedule around on September 15 on our CASI website. A second question that I'm going to direct to James that we received was, I can do a frontside 360 sailfish hard way and back 360 melon easily on small features, but why couldn't I pass any writing task in level 3 exam? What's wrong with my writing? James, do you have can you answer this question, please?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a pretty common sort of question. Somebody's probably fairly park oriented. They feel comfortable maybe doing some different maneuvers that are really impressive maneuvers to do, but they're just specific tricks or maneuvers. So the first thing to do is look at your advanced competencies when you're looking at your riding. And those are the lens with which you should be looking at. When you look at the level 3, it's not just a trick specific, course or exam. You want to have a good idea of what the core competencies mean in general when you're looking, and then personally what they feel like when you're riding. So first off, look through that lens. The advanced competencies are how we judge the riding, whether you're in the park, in the bumps, on piste. Those are all going to be present, and that's how you get to the standard of riding. It's not doing specific tricks in the park. That's about it.
Thank you. So I hope that answers all your question. Don't always hesitate to reach out if there's anything else you want to clarify. Thank you, James. Third question we received, what are the steps needed to obtain a level 3 certification? Michelle, do you want to walk us through these steps?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing to get to that level 3 is spending time teaching and riding and getting experience in the industry. So there's not a certain number of years or number of lessons you need to teach, but definitely the more you teach, the more experience you're going to get, and the more comfortable you're going to be at leading a group and starting to get into some of those advanced competencies and high-end riding. And then in terms of your actual riding, spending time on steeper terrain and getting miles and practicing going maybe outside of your traditional comfort zone in terms of your like speed perhaps, or the pitch that you're choosing. So experience is the big thing. In terms of like steps that needs to be done, definitely need to have your level 2 CASI and your park 1. And then there is a prep course you can take before the actual course itself. So that's not mandatory, but super recommended because it will set you up for exactly what you need for the course. Then of course, the actual level 3 course you do need to take. And then after the course, again, before you jump right into exams, I would suggest taking what you learned from the course and apply it. I hope you can still hear me because I just got telling me my internet's unstable. Anyways, yeah, experience after the course, practice what you were told from your evaluators. And then if you do decide to take the exams, there's a prep course often before the exams. And then that will set you up exactly what you need to be doing for the exam itself. And then obviously taking the level 3 exams to complete that process. So there is a lot of mandatory steps, some that are recommended, but I think the big thing is getting experience before just jumping into the next level. So yeah, those would be the steps.
Thanks, Michelle. Good job. Everything was there. Adam, I got a good question for you. How do you stay physically active in the off season?
Hello. So yeah, for me, I mean, I like to stay pretty active doing all kinds of stuff, but thing that I've learned is if I try to stay active in a way that I think that's going to prepare me for snowboarding, I found, after almost 30 years of doing this sport, that nothing will 100% prepare you for snowboarding. There's nothing that mimics like the going down a hill with those G-forces under your feet constantly bashing you. So I don't think that any sport that you do is going to make you a machine that first day on snow. So, I mean, some of the things that I do, just like, well, I talk about my day today. I went biking for a little bit. I changed some tires on a car, so I was lifting stuff, and I might go for a roll on my skateboard later. But I don't think it really matters what you're doing. For me, it's more my approach to what I'm doing. So for me, like, I feel like there's a couple things that I have as personal rules. So number one is, well, this is the only one I'm really going to share with you guys, I think, but rule number one is don't sit down. So the only time I sit down, usually while I'm sitting right now, that's cheating, but I normally sit down at 10 at night. So I'm always moving all day. I'm pretty active, doing whatever I'm doing. And then the other thing I always try and keep a good close eye on inside when I'm doing, doesn't matter what sport I'm doing, I call it my internal throttle cable. Sounds kind of weird, but here's an example. If I'm riding a bike up a hill I like to feel, it doesn't matter for how long, it could be 30 seconds or a minute. I just like to feel what it's like to just go full. So I'll just go wide open throttle for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it might be. But sometimes I just like to feel what that feels like. And then I'll just go back to, maybe chilling or idling a little bit. And I kind of apply that to most sports I do, where you just kind of see where you're at as far as like how far you can push yourself for a little short duration and then chill. And I feel like that helps me just lengthen that duration sometimes, where maybe if I can gun it up a hill on my bike for 30 seconds on a really steep section, maybe the next time I can do it for 40 seconds or a minute, or, I'd probably max out at about a minute there. But I feel like most of my approach to any sport is kind of like probably the way maybe your dad would have worked, like a blue collar worker. I take pride in my work and my sports, and I try to push a little bit harder than just staying in third gear, just idling my way through something. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. Do you guys from the tech team, guys, and Michelle, have any other thing you would like to add on that topic? Like, how do you stay physically healthy, physically active during the season? During the off season, sorry.
I mean, for me, I'm very similar to Adam. I'm always moving. But I'm a little bit more, this is just my own, I guess, experience is he's totally 100% on point. There's no like 100% transferable sport, but learning to move through a natural environment with your body's natural ability is 100% transferable. So whether it's trail running, all about being in a natural environment. So when you're on a level playing field, like a road, or you're in a gym and everything is nice and level and flat, I'm not a huge fan of training in those environments because I don't find they give me the stimulus that translates when I'm out in a natural environment, when I'm on my board. That's all I'd add.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar there, James, about how I think you're right. It's really tough to find something that's completely transferable. But the one thing that snowboarding has, I think, that can be shared with other sports is just that idea that you're kind of moving your body through a natural space. But it's also a sport of forces, right? And it's a sport of momentum and physics, like many sports are. But snowboarding, skiing, all of these things. So it's finding those ways to kind of train some of those feelings, like Adam said. And a common one for me through the off season, especially in the last couple of years, has been mountain biking and trying to find the similarities between kind of harnessing or embracing gravity and using line and momentum and speed the same way that you might approach a snowboard run, for sure.
Yeah, I think if you're comfortable the way your body moves and has to react is the big one. It can be through multiple sports. I've had lots of people tell me that I snowboard and bike and skateboard pretty much the same, because you're just comfortable with the movement patterns that are needed to basically react and stay on your feet.
Yeah, I would add to that myself. What I really like to do is trying to find the flow in anything that I do. Like sometimes the flow is through, like you say, that wide open throttle. I kind of like this expression. I'm really going to reuse it. But also like to any type of speed and strength that I apply. So trying to find the finesse through all the movement or through all the activities that I'm doing. That's really my goal. And I think this is totally transferable to snowboarding. When it comes to snowboarding, it puts you in a certain state of mind as well. So that's something I can transfer. Anything else some members want to add on that topic, or I can pass to the next question?
I would just add, for myself anyways, I play a lot of golf and disc golf in the summer, and like very different sports from snowboarding, obviously, but there are pieces that I can take away kind of cognitively and as I'm training myself to play those sports better, kind of going through that process of thinking about and building muscle movements and memory, like muscle memory. And then I find myself in the winter later kind of coming back to those same patterns that are slightly different, and then I'm applying that to my snowboarding. So I think it's like a give and take, right? Even if it doesn't seem like the sport's directly transferable, just going through that process of using your body and thinking about what you're doing, you'll find eventually some overlap in what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah. Nice. Michelle, did you have anything to add on this topic?
No, I do a lot of what everybody else just said. One thing that I've been doing a lot more of, and mostly the last year, is just almost like just keeping myself active, but like more focused into like yoga stuff. I've dabbled with it in the winter, found that in the summer now I can kind of keep that flow going, and that's something I can do in the class, or I can do it at home. It can make it as hard or stressful or as light as I want, but it's really, I've found it was super helpful for balance. And like for the last winter was awesome. So I wanted to continue that and see how that was going to transfer into next year, being a little bit more like focused mentally, and actually like those finer muscles that really hurt at the beginning of the season because I don't really use them, and all of a sudden I'm snowboarding again. I want to see how that's going to play out, because most of the time my summers are spent paddling and my legs kind of get forgotten. So yeah, yoga.
Nice. Thanks. Okay, so we also have some members that are not in the Huff season at the moment. They're snowboarding all year long. And we also know as snowboard instructor that might have worked full-time or part-time, that seasons sometimes can be rough on the bodies and rough on the time that you have left in order to keep training and keep yourself healthy. So I want to ask you, I'll direct the question to Dom. How do you stay physically healthy during the season? Healthy or like couple with your buddy?
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially when you're doing back-to-back seasons. That's over, like for me, it was well over 200 days on snow a year. I did, I think, 7 years of that, not exactly consecutively, but and yeah, it's definitely a matter of, I like Adam's approach of trying to stay on your feet all the time, but at the same time, I go in cycles. I have to, when I'm working 7 days a week, you know, at Perisher and busing huge long days, working massive groups, I know that on that one day off I get a week, I'm sitting on, that's what's happening. Like the body just needs to relax, chill out. Maybe I'll get up off the couch and do something, go play disc golf that day or something. But ultimately, like the body needs to recover at some point. And when you're doing back-to-back seasons, 200 plus days a year of the same stuff, you really have to find a way to make sure that you're not compounding on that in those times off. So, you know, if there's a slow week, that's when I'm going to get out there and get snowboarding and do some stuff for myself. Or if there's a slow day, I'll go take that day to add in a bit more snowboarding. But on my days off are my days off. And I try to avoid, as much as it hurts, to go snowboarding sometimes. And then the other thing on top of that is taking the, you know, eating our own medicine a little bit. We're experts. We sell lessons. We expect people to listen to us because we've been doing this for a long time, and nobody knows bodies better than, in my opinion, physiotherapists, but doctors, physiotherapists, kinesiologists, all those medically trained experts. And going to them, like I literally just came from the physio, I got taped up for some tendonitis in my wrist, and listening to them and following the plans that they give you. I know when I was younger and I started doing seasons, I was 21, 24, whatever, doing back-to-back seasons, I spent a lot of time not following physio recommendations. I'd do it for like a week, it would stop hurting, and then I'd just kind of ignore it from there. And then it would inevitably creep back up a week later, and I'd be stretching again. Whereas if I just continued, I would have been full strength and not have to worry about it. So kind of going to the physio, going to the doctor when your body's telling you it needs something, and then following their instructions and actually kind of pushing through that mental barrier and doing the work, doing some yoga, putting in that extra stuff that's going to keep you feeling good and keep you going when you're doing that many days is super important.
Thanks, Dom. Good stuff. Anyone else have something to add on this topic? Like, what's their tip to stay healthy during the season?
And the one thing
I definitely. Oh yeah, you go, Jeff.
No, go ahead, James.
Well, I mean, for me, a restorative movement practice outside of like snowboarding or anything where you're specifically training something that is a targeted skill, you're always going to have imbalances. So using a more global movement practice, I use natural movement or MoveNat as my basis for like figuring out what's happening in the body, what hurts, and how to balance some of that stuff out. And then I just use the elements like cold and hot, and always contrasting those two. They've been like game changers for me. Cold therapy, for anybody that knows me, they know I enjoy jumping in cold shit. And the same is for the hot. You know, like I'm building a wood-fired sauna in my backyard because I've just seen such huge benefit from those therapies. So like the cold and the hot, getting comfortable, and then contrasting and allowing your body to relax, to contract.
Nice. Good. I might go try it one day in the Georgian Bay. Jeff, you were gonna add something too.
Yeah, James and I are on similar wavelengths there, but I was just going to mention just my own experience. Snowboarding is one of those activities that's very asymmetrical, and it puts some unique kind of stresses on your body. And so for me, whether it's in season or off season, paying attention to those asymmetries and some of the things that can pop up, right? So some of the things, the little areas of tightness, or whether or not it's full-blown injury or not, but over time and you know, just the act of standing in that kind of rotated and turned towards your front foot position, it can take its toll over time. So just paying attention to those things, and whether it's through the winter, I tend to use the off season, the summer season, to really kind of focus on more symmetrical kind of activity and movements, and sort of building some symmetry back into my muscles and joints, because we spend so much time in that kind of odd position in the winter months. So, and the other thing is we don't really know, like we're sort of at the pointy edge of that, where if you've been snowboarding for 10, 15, 20 or 30 years now, those are the times, or it's going to be those people who sort of experience that stuff more. So if I was to go back and start snowboarding earlier, it would be to keep that stuff in mind and just pay attention to it as you're making this a full-time thing, or not. I mean, even if you're snowboarding a couple days a week, it's still something to think about.
Just on that note, one last thing that I started doing when I was down under, because I noticed this asymmetry problem riding all the T-bars that they have down there. I started riding T-bars switch, and it was a pain in the ass at first, but we got there. I got there in the end, and it became easy, and it became second nature. And honestly, it makes such a difference. Just riding lifts, whether you're sitting down or riding tow ropes or anything switch, as often trying to kind of balance that, especially when you're working, and it doesn't really matter if you're riding too much anyways, is going to make a huge difference. Like, that definitely helped even things out across the body.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Cool. That kind of leads us to also to the next, unless Michelle or Adam, you guys had something to add, but that leads us to the next question. Jeff, you targeted that too with talking about asymmetry, but do you do any preparation to cater to lingering injuries? James?
No, I'm pretty much going to say the same thing. I make sure, like, lingering injuries for me, I've had a lot of hits in my life. So, you know, I have the lingering back injury, the lingering neck injury, the lingering elbow injury. I've got a lot of lingering injuries. But the way that I mitigate all of those kinds of injuries is by making sure that the whole system is working, right? So if I'm not functionally moving, using, you know, my body in a well-rounded way, not just a skill specific way, like specialized sport is a really hard to get away from nagging injuries like tendonitis and all those. Like I'm a carpenter as well. I got tendonitis in my elbow, and it flares up from time to time. The best thing that I can do is move and crawl on the ground and get my hands and arms and shoulders to start tracking in the right positions and in the right ways. And it's a little bit uncomfortable, but spending the time to do that, to make sure that I'm working through those ranges and that my body can like functionally be mobile through those ranges, is how I kind of work my way through those lingering injuries. And then again, hot and cold. and always changing my environment. You notice that I'm bouncing all the time right now. I'm on a ball. I don't put myself in an environment where I'm like increasing my susceptibility to injury. So sitting on a chair for a long time, not a big fan, right? That's just going to make me a little bit weaker. So try not to do stuff like that.
Thanks. Adam, do you have anything? Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to say, seeking those little opportunities when you are working that you realize that might kind of put you in an uncomfortable situation. Like for me, something you'll probably notice if you ride with me a lot, I always seek like that outside part of the chairlift because I know it's comfortable on my knee. And it's just something where I get a rest, right? Or if there's a section of uphill where I could easily skate up it, maybe it's 15 feet, pushing up the hill, I might just take my board off and jog up it. So I'm not going to torque myself on the way up. So I think it's just seeking those little opportunities while you're in action to give those prone spots a bit of a rest.
Yeah, that's a good one. That makes me think of when you stand on the toe edge, and I like to stretch my calf, like standing on a heel edge, looking upward. That's
without interrupting anything else, right? It's just kind of built in.
Yeah. Nice. So next question, Michelle. What are some things that you do to help you inspire your snowboarding teaching and hone your presentation skills?
All right. Well, let's see. Well, I pretty much have made a career in teaching a variety of different things in all seasons and environments. So I kayak instructor, canoe instructor, swiftwater instructor, rafting instructor. So to help keep the presentation skills all year long, I kind of teach a lot of different things. So when it comes to snowboarding, I've already been practicing presenting in front of groups and presenting material and having course plans and having session plans kind of all through the season. So that definitely helps with my presentation skills, getting into leadership roles and some of the other jobs that I'm doing, just to practice getting out in front of groups and leading them. All help me. But something that I did a little bit more this year, while skiing, also helps me prepare on the snowboard side. You can get a lot transfer skills teaching skiing and snowboarding, but I did a little bit more of being a participant in lessons this year. And that is pretty cool. It sparks a lot of different ideas like, oh, like that's how you become a really good instructor, or a really good teacher, is you take the good things from other instructors and make it your own. And there was a lot of opportunity this year for me to be a student and listen to other presentation styles and ways that people say things and explain things. And that definitely is something that inspires me to then go out and teach my next lesson, or lead my next group, or coach my next kids, or whatever. Yeah, I think the big thing was practicing all the time and listening to others and taking some good points from them. Yeah.
Good. Thanks. Anyone else want to add some stuff on that topic on teaching?
I kind of have a point for the pedagogy stuff, and for me it's become a bit of a sickness. I can give you an example of today. I was laying under my car taking apart some steering linkage, and I have 2 wrenches beside me, and I grab the one that's obviously going to do the better job, but in the back of my head I'm thinking, like, if I was trying to explain it to someone else, like, you use this one because it grabs better or something. And I don't know why there's always that narration going on. I attested to, from doing this for so long, that it's just become a little bit of an ingrained problem that I have, or a sickness in my brain. But it's just that narration that your brain does, as far as, like, if you had to explain the task you're doing right now to somebody else, like, what are a couple of the key points that would make it a valid thing to say? I don't know, maybe it's a mental health issue, but I think I catch myself doing it quite often.
That's awesome. That's a good capacity of taking a step back, like, from what you're doing, like just that person here that's overlooking.
Yeah, your imaginary friend that's with you while you're working by yourself, maybe, I don't know.
Nice. The next question, we cover it a little bit with well, pretty much, but maybe asking it in a different way. We have some more stuff we're thinking of and we want to add, but tell me if it's too repetitive, we can just switch to the next one. So what are some connections from other activities that help you get back to snowboarding quickly? Adam, I'll direct it to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I was thinking about this question because it seems like a little bit of a I don't know, cliche question or whatever, because you would think, like, skateboarding, snowboarding, kind of similar thing. And some of the things I thought about with this is, not just looking for some of the things that are helping or things that are similarities, but for me, there's a lot of big differences that maybe put a little bit of a hindrance on the way I would approach snowboarding. So I'm thinking of an example. I've been skateboarding for like a pretty long time, probably longer than I've been snowboarding, over 30 years of skateboarding. And for me, like, rolling on a skateboard is kind of a no-brainer. I don't think it might help my balance and stuff, but I don't think it's doing a lot for, like, reaction and stuff. I actually have to try to maneuver the board or ollie or jump on stuff for it to actually wake me up a little bit, to engage, like, those reactive thoughts and to get things happening that would transfer to snowboarding. But some things for me, they make snowboarding more difficult. So a good example would be the way I would do a front board on my skateboard compared to my snowboard is actually totally different. And it actually screws up my snowboarding a lot, because the way that I would do it on my skateboard, the way the skateboard is shaped, it has like this a little bit of a concaveness to it. So it has a bit of a roll to it. So if I jump on a rail and I feel like it's going to grab or stick, after doing this thousands of times, I can actually just roll the skateboard and let it glide a little bit. But when I try and do that on my snowboard, we probably all know what happens, where you roll up on that edge and something bad happens. So for me, I'm looking for not the fact that I'm front boarding on a skateboard and a snowboard at the same time. It's what are the little differences that I have to make a conscious change so I don't get wrecked. And for me, it's actually, I think it's really hurt my park riding and my snowboarding more than it should have, which is I'm just so much more comfortable on a skateboard that the way I snowboard, it doesn't match up, you know, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
I see what you mean,
yeah.
but would you say that it helps to like to also explore a range of movement and like feet feeling and like these would be transferable stuff, right?
For sure. And I think for me to get anything out of skateboarding, it needs to be more of a reactive state. So it's got to be like ollieing over something or rolling down something where I actually have to force myself to move. Just standing on the board, because we all know probably from snowboarding for so long that when you're in that state of refinement, you kind of turn off sometimes and it becomes a little bit like boring for your body. So you kind of need to give yourself something a little bit more than the average. So if you're looking for something like skateboarding for, you know, a cross training thing to help your snowboarding, just standing on it and stuff, if it's new to you, that's great. It's probably going to help your balance and feel that fine tuning stuff. But there will be a point where you're going to need to try something more than that to benefit from more than just that little bit of balancing sideways kind of finesse stuff. I think, like I said before, for me, the big thing is trying to get some sort of reaction where I actually have to move. And I know when I was messaging you guys back and forth before, like for me, I would class it down to like the difference between like a good reaction and a bad reaction. And for me, the good reactions are things like, you know, when something goes awry or something happens that you're not expecting, that you deal with it in a way that your body moves in a natural state where you don't totally fold and get wrecked, right? Which becomes a little bit hard. It becomes something you need to practice and get repetition out of. But for me, it's something that I need to be able to do. I would class it for that person that snowboards and maybe they haven't had a fall for quite a long time. When they do have that fall, they just don't know how to react because they haven't put themselves in that state. And for me, it doesn't matter what sport I'm doing, if it's, you know, biking or skateboarding or climbing or whatever, I'm always seeking that, just that little bit of like uncertainty with the sport. So it forces me to have that little surprise or reaction. And it's a statement I've said a lot to some of the more timid riders I rode with last year is I asked them that question. You know, that feeling when you're riding and you're like, oh, and you get really scared for that split second. And most of those people that I was riding with, they shy away from feeling that. They don't want to get put in that state because it's scary to them, right? They might hurt themselves or they might crash. But I seek that. I want to feel that. I'll throw myself into something where I will feel that because I like it. To me, it's exciting and it teaches you how to react. And, you know, if you reflect on it, you will learn something, whether your brain registers or not. Most of the time, it's just your body saving yourself. But I think any sport you do, you need to seek that little bit of a level up, whether it's a biking or whatever, just to feel like that little bit of that whoa state. And for me, I think that's how I approach all sports. Doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes I even walk down the street like that. It's not a straight line. And it's something that keeps you sharp, I guess.
Cool. Any things to add, team?
I totally 100% on board, especially with walking down the street. People think I'm a bit weird with that, but I'm jumping on every single thing that I can all the time. And I like the idea that you know, that whole throttle, almost throttle analogy, and finding that balance between like really comfortable and not so comfortable. I'm constantly, like, I'm a huge fan of putting myself again into a natural environment. So becoming a little bit more aware of how my body moves through a natural environment. So I climb trees still. Like I'll swim out far in the lake. Yeah, I know you're laughing, Dom, but I do climb trees. But you know what? I get a lot of good feedback, like Adam's talking about. Like I can feel how stable this branch is under my foot when I'm 25 feet in the air. I don't really want to eat shit, but I kind of want to get to the top of the tree. So I'm I'm playing with that balance, and I'm putting myself in an environment where I'm relying solely on my body, which is what you're doing when you're snowboarding. And I'm developing skills that are going to help me to deal with situations like that. And I mean, climbing trees is kiddie and shit, but it's awesome. So that's it.
I totally get it. That's the feeling that I get when I climb, and that's what I'm looking for when I climb too. And when I get like myself to that fine limit where I might get a little bit too scared that time, and I have to overcome it again to like find the state of mind where I'll be able to finish that way up that route. So yeah, getting out of the comfort zone and allows you to get a better focus, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about just feeling a little bit like a beginner or a novice again. It makes you feel a little bit like humble, like a student. So
Yeah.
I can attest to that. I've been climbing quite a bit lately, and I feel like I'm kind of a novice entering that intermediate level. And to me, it's so much more exciting not being good at something because it forces you to pay attention. It forces you to try a little harder and put a little bit more effort into things.
Yeah,
yeah, that's me in golf right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next question. Dom, I got one for you. What do you do in order to get ready for your next CASI level? Like, or what did you do? Or what's your best tip or advice?
I mean, there's the obvious stuff, which I'm sure we all have heard before or given as advice of snowboard more, eat more, find more variety in what you're doing on snow and while working, while teaching. That stuff's kind of self-evident, hopefully, for most people. But beyond that, I think it comes down to kind of making choices about analyzing like your situation and making choices to improve what you're doing to achieve those goals. So knowing you want to get the level 3 is one thing. Telling yourself, oh, I gotta go snowboarding more. Great. But like, what does that mean? What do you mean when you're going to say, I'm going to go snowboarding more? Does that mean that you're just going to go out and ride park all day, every day, because that's what you like doing? Or does that mean that you're going to head out there and ride some nasty, icy moguls because you know that's your weakness? And that's the feedback you got on the last exam. As Adam said, like kind of finding those things that maybe scare you or you don't like doing, that's probably a good indication that that's something you need to work on. So for myself, when I was working on my, for example, starting the process of my level 4, I was working at Silver Star. We didn't have a big snowboard training team. I was just about nearly one of the only trainers there at the time. And I had to kind of make a decision. I had to assess, is Silver Star the right place for me to achieve this goal? Being around a couple other level 3s who weren't really interested in the level 4, and then not really having any kind of training support behind me other than some really good skiers around, meant that I would have been doing it kind of on my own back. And that's, one way to do it. There are people who have done it that way, and it's one way to do it. But I made the choice. I told myself I've got to get somewhere where I've got the support and the people who know and can help direct me in the right direction. So I chose between Lake Louise and Whistler. Those are the 2 places I applied. I got job offers, and I made a call, and I moved to Whistler. I rode a lot of icy moguls. I backlined at work. I didn't teach as much to try and get as much riding in that first season as I could. I explored a crazy amount of completely different terrain from what I was used to back at Silver Star, and it impacted my snowboarding in a good way. I passed the riding that season. And then the next year, I set myself to task on the teaching and the pedagogy. And I made sure that while I was teaching, even beginners, I was thinking about the techniques that I was saying to beginners in that kind of more advanced way, using the skills competency, the skills concept, the competencies, all these things that we talk about for high-end riding and pedagogy. I was doing like Adam said, I had that thing like, how would I explain this to another instructor, what I'm teaching this beginner right now as I'm teaching these beginners? And I set myself to task on that. And so there are days where I would switch off and not be focused on that. But for the most part, kind of every day, I had this goal and I woke up thinking, I want to be a level 4. I've got this many days to do it. And then each day I found something to do to achieve that goal. And I think, we don't all have the luxury of moving or of, attending training at a big mountain like Whistler or Lake Louise or I don't know, back east, whatever the equivalent would be there, or wherever you may be in the world. But we do have the opportunities to kind of train ourselves and bounce ideas off our peers and seek out help. CASI is a huge community. There's lots of people available on the internet. We have these sessions now, which is great. Plenty of the people here on the tech team, trainers. There's more and more online platforms opening up to seek help. And there's more and more training programs opening up to seek help. So there's a lot of options out there. There's no excuse for saying, well, I didn't have enough help getting there. The help is there. You just need to make the decision to go and seek it out.
Nice. Thanks, Dom. Team, anything to add on top of that? It was pretty complete answer. I was trying to think like, maybe I did a lot of visualization and meditation also to try to like stay. I had a problem with stress every time I would come on exams, and I know like that was my biggest thing. Like I really had to calm down, like to calm the hamster down that would just like and take me out of the focus. And I feel like through the process that really helped me to get to my goal in the end. So that's the only thing I would really had, like, and play and alternate, play with my board, play on my snowboard, and alternate with more dedicated and serious time for training too. That was my target, like to not forget to develop things without thinking too much about it, but also then there was time, well, it's time to focus and to be serious and to nail down these tasks, right?
Yeah, allow yourself to have some fun once in a while. Don't get so encompassed by the training regime, and almost use it as a bit of a reward. If you have a bit of a breakthrough in something, just go have fun for a day. Just, don't lose the essence. We're snowboarding.
Why you started.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that's probably the biggest game changer between me being successful and me being not successful, was actually enjoying the process. Don't make it a grind. It's not supposed to be a grind. We're actually supposed to have fun. So I see a lot of people just out there grinding. It's fun to grind, and there's a time and a place, but enjoy the process, because when you get there, you get the level 3, you get the level 4. That's it, right? And it's all the stuff that built you up to getting that's important. It's not like the pin, so, or the number. Enjoy the process.
And sing a lot. A lot of
But-
singing and fun noises really is helpful too.
Fun noises, yeah.
100%.
Totally,
Yeah.
like woo.
Yep. Songs.
And we mentioned it a little bit before, like staying humble, just staying humble where you're at, and like taking ownership of your own training with like where you're at with your current strength and what you can really do, recognize them, understand them, and work on challenging yourself to overcome, to like get to your goals. I don't know if that was clear. That my English got lost a little bit in that sentence, but I'm sure you get the point. I got like one more question that I'll direct to the whole team for today. We touch on it a little bit, but I think it's always good to remember that yes, we have all of our CASI courses, but there's also other certifications, other trainings out there that we can recommend, and I'm sure the team have some recommendation for you. Like Canada Snowboard Courses, or Michelle mentioned CSIA, any teaching course, I would say, would recommend. We talk about first aid, maybe also, that's something important to have, even though like you're not, yes, there's the ski patrol at the mountain, but first aid training always helps you to take a little bit of a step back in front of a situation and how to react. So there's these things. Any other things you guys want to mention?
Yeah, Jen, one of the experiences I've had over the years on the level 4 with people working their way through the system to get to the level 4 is that it's really important to look kind of outside of the CASI box to gain some of those skills. And, you know, I wish that CASI could provide all of the skills and attributes and abilities necessary to reach that certification level, but it's a big process, as James said. And so for some people, it's useful to look outside and look at what other programs can offer you, and whether it's a program like a formal training program or just other experiences. And the Canada Snowboard Coaching Program is a great way to sort of look at snowboarding from a slightly different angle, and some great content there that you never know what you're going to pick up that you can add to your lessons to make them much better. Getting into sort of the backcountry side of things with some of the avalanche courses and some of the stuff that the Canadian Avalanche Association is doing. But the big thing for me is just that it doesn't really matter what the content is, but some of the best sort of learning that I've been able to gain and take into some of the CASI courses that I teach has come from stuff completely out of the snowboarding world. And a lot of times it's just interesting to take a course or take a lesson, like Michelle said, be a student again and sort of observe an instructor or a teacher from a totally different angle and start to try to relate that to what you're working on in your snowboard life. One of the other big ones that we talk a lot about is, the level 4 has a certain kind of performance on demand aspect to it on the technical side, and enter a competition, even if it's a fun bank slalom or something, and feel what it feels like to be in the start gate and feel that pressure. And that's very similar to what you're going to feel during the level 3 or level 4 evaluation process.
Yeah. I'm just going to plug one of the biggest influential kind of certification bodies for me was MoveNat, MOVNAT. It's a sort of natural movement certification. There's 3 levels. Actually, I think I saw Sean on here. Sean was on here. Sean just did the level 1 and 2. It's a game changer for realizing how your body moves, and it also has the teaching aspect. It's a performance on demand aspect. Like there's specific skills that you need to pass in order to do this. You need to be able to teach these specific skills. So it was invaluable. It's even as just a strictly restorative kind of practice, it's bar none, and this is no offense to yoga whatsoever, it's far better than yoga. In my humble opinion. I do love yoga too. But,
okay, fine.
No, Michelle, that was nice. I love yoga too. But yeah, for me, it's just it's the all-rounder.
Yeah, I think I was a pretty big advocate of putting first aid training on that list, just because, well, for one, part of the training is they teach you how to remain calm in stressful situations that I think would help with exams. But for me, the last first aid course that I did, the presenter, he was unreal. Like the way he engaged the group and, you know, presented some of this information in a boring classroom in the bottom of a hotel. It was just kind of inspiring actually to watch somebody else be in the driver's seat for a while, because I haven't done that in a long time. And it was really neat to just be a student again and sit back and watch how somebody could engage a large group of people that would otherwise be bored in a dungeon.
Yeah, and there was a question I just saw also in the chat. Eddie is asking, what about the avalanche courses? I came from Quebec and I have no need I'll get back there, but I'm now in BC and I'm aware of the risk here in the West. I personally, I'm in Quebec and I have the avalanche courses and I use them when I go out in Gaspésie and in any steeper terrain or avalanche exposure terrain. And I think like a bit like what we just said, it's another bit of knowledge that you can get and another presenter that you can see presenting something different that you can take example from. So I think it's definitely, especially I'm going to play the Jen's mom right here, but if you're going to do some backcountry, I really recommend that you do the course and that you go with experimented people as well.
I think understanding the environment that you're riding in is super beneficial.
It does help with
You know?
class control, like overhead danger and spill zones and things like that. It's things that we deal with on a daily basis when we're guiding a group around the regular old ski hill. Some of the stuff crosses over quite nicely.
Sweet. I think we cover a lot of topics. Maybe it's the time to we have maybe a few minutes left. And if any of the members present in this session, you have any other question, you're welcome to, we're not tons of people, so you're welcome to just open your microphone and ask a question if you have one for us. We're happy to answer. And if you don't have, it's fine. It's good. Thank you, Sergio. Well, I guess we can call it a night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for attending the session, and hope you have a good evening or night, depending where you're located, and see you to the next session in 1 month.
Ooh,
Thanks, everyone.
bye.
Everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, tech team.
I
See you guys next week.
Yeah, see ya.
Oh.
Bye.